ladies and gentlemen. I know it's been a while since you heard my voice, but I'm back and I'm not going anywhere, at least not for another year. So fingers crossed on that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Third Intermission podcast. The boss man is back in the saddle. Yes, your boy Dave is back, and he is not going anywhere, at least for a little time soon. I'm happy to be back. Very refreshed and rested and dealing with racist left, right, and center, but it is what it is. Of course, you can follow us on the socials at Toronto Third, both on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also listen to us wherever you get your podcast from. That's including Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Radio Podcasts. First and foremost, before we get down to business today, I would like to officially say, thank you to everybody who had taken part in things while I was gone. Of course, mental health is something that is extremely important. If your mental health ain't right, then you can't do this day and night. And of course, if you're not feeling well, like obviously take some time for yourself. That's something that's very well like a thing that you should hit home with, especially personally. And we all know health is wealth, and especially in this day and age. So if you ever need to like just go talk to a therapist, or like you just need something, like there are resources out there. There's also talking to your friends, especially your Black friends. I mean, they'll judge you for it, but like they'll be there for you left, right, and center. So thank you to, of course, the crew here for taking care of things while I was gone. You're gonna be hearing my annoying voice for the next however long, for the rest of your lives, or until you decide to stop listening to us. So it is what it is. So enjoy. All right. Getting back on topic here. We've got the right hand of the king, aka Mr. Fedora Man, aka Mr. Stereo Girl, aka the most sharply dressed man in all of hockey. Avery McDougall in the cut. Avery, how have you been?
Doing well, Dave. Good to hear you back on the show again as the darkest man in hockey, as per usual.
Yo, they should just make a jersey that's like, it's just like, they should just make an all black jersey and just put midnight on the back and just put my age on it. There you go. And starting at center, number 36, midnight.
Oh my gosh, but we've been busy, Dave. Holding the fort down while you've been gone. So we're back at full unit to get to hear your voice again on the show, sir.
Appreciate you. How's Deadmonton these days? Is it still cold as ever?
No, not that cold. Y'all keep thinking it's like minus 45 every single day of the week when it's not.
Listen, you live in Alberta. You live right next to the Rockies, dog. Like, don't act like you don't act like
Yo, what are you trying to put together a video to lure players to come to the bubble here in 2020? Yo, Edmonton is nowhere near there.
Listen, I ain't trying to lure nobody nowhere, right? Listen, we all live in Ontario. We know how it goes. Okay, so
this guy.
Yeah, aren't you glad I'm back? All right. Also in the cut this evening, we've got the Hood General himself, aka the coach, aka the greatest, one of the greatest fathers on the podcast himself. We're talking about Troy Piper Bourne. Troy, what is good?
Not too much. Just finished another, excuse me, hard day at work. Another day, another taxable dollar. I spent the whole long weekend working, so I get to enjoy my whole one day off tomorrow with my family. I don't know what we have planned yet, but it might involve just being couch potatoes. I don't know. It's cold and everything is expensive, so
that is true.
We'll see what we can do at home for free.
Right.
How about you? Nice to have you back, Ross.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you. I'm good. Just of course, if it was mentioned during our previous episode, I was on a trip to Pittsburgh for the Black History Month hockey game in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Winnipeg Jets. It was a lot of fun. Did have to deal with a racist or two, but and we move forward on things. Honestly, like, he can probably have diarrhea with no toilet paper for all I care. But and it got me inspired to come back and just shoot the shit with you guys and talk hockey and start just being myself again. And and like it really helped. So I can't fully say that I'm at a good place yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there, which is huge. So really and truly, guys, thank you very much for holding things down. Let's get into what we're going to talk about. First things first, the PWHL battle on Bay Street. One of the biggest talking points in hockey over the last 7 days. World record had been broken for attendance. One of the loudest games that has ever had, one of the loudest hockey games in Scotiabank Arena's history. I mean, don't fully quote me on it yet, but like in all honesty, it has never been that loud in the last 5 to 10 years, with the exception of the Raptors' 2019 NBA Finals run or NBA championship run, excuse me. So right up there, especially on the decibel level. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how PWHL Toronto and the other 5 lovely teams in the Professional Women's Hockey League is currently handling things. We're going to double check the standings on that. We're also going to talk about Leafs injuries. Captain John Tavares is out day to day with an undisclosed injury. We're going to try and figure out what's going on. We're also going to talk about the Leafs 9-2 beat down on the San Diego Seagulls. The Anaheim Ducks back on Saturday night. And we're also going to look at the potential trade rumors as well, with Phil Kessel potentially coming back to Canada as a Canuck. Finally, we're also going to look into the Stadium Series games and whether it's a viable option going forward, as all 4 teams in the tri-state area, that's state of New Jersey, state of New York, and state of Pennsylvania, all playing at MetLife Stadium this past weekend. So much and more, and we're going to get started on the PWHL situation. So this past Saturday, the PWHL teams from Toronto and Montreal were playing in Scotiabank Arena on Friday night. Now, mind you, if you were trying to get a ticket for the Toronto organization, I, like many other fans, have had trouble trying to find tickets as they've been completely sold out for the entire season. And of course, when the battle on Bay Street had popped up, it was one of the biggest hockey things, at least in the city, outside of the Marlies or say the Toronto Maple Leafs playoff run, where everyone was trying to get there. Everyone was trying to get a ticket. Everyone and their mother was trying to get a ticket. All-Star Weekend was, of course, a little expensive, but people were still planning on going to that. And that was like about maybe 2-3 weeks prior to that. And so, of course, with Toronto being the hockey mecca of the world, why not try to attempt to break the biggest the biggest crowd record in women's hockey history? And I'm going to be completely honest, watching that brand of hockey for the first time, the men's game really has to step the game up at this point, because it was a lot of fun watching that, and the atmosphere was just electric. You could literally cut it with a chainsaw. There was no bad blood between Toronto and Montreal, as there would be between the Leafs and the Canadiens. And it was just really great hockey from the jump. A lot of hitting, a lot of taking the body, a lot of great shots were made on net. Like, both goaltenders were basically standing on their heads until the third period. Of course, Jesse Comfort was scoring the first goal in Scotiabank Arena under the PWHL banner. I'm not gonna lie, the decibel level was like on at least 130 by the time that game had finished. Of course, Toronto had won 3-0 with Kristen Campbell getting a 30 save shutout. Hannah Miller on her birthday getting a goal and an assist, basically ending up the 3rd star of the entire game. It was a lot of fun. A lot of women's teams were there. There were actually a lot of men in there too who were wearing PWHL jerseys. There was a really great battle on Bay Street jersey, which I wish I had gotten my hands on. But of course, for $125, I ain't paying for that. But it was a very exciting time. I hope this brand of hockey thrives and there's more expansion with this league, and hopefully this league has some team names going forward. I gotta ask you guys real quick. Did any of you catch the game on Friday?
I didn't. I had a chance to watch a game, and first of all, anyone who says, "Oh, women's hockey, whoa, who cares? Who cares? It's irrelevant." How are you not tired by now? Are you not tired of spouting off that garbage?
For
Because
real.
again, we have over 18,000 people at Scotiabank. We've had great crowds in Minnesota and Ottawa. Like this is not going anywhere, and we are seeing these teams again continue to ingrain themselves in the market, watching great hockey. And I did watch Toronto get a big win over Montreal, and now we're seeing the PWHL Toronto turn things around. And one thing I love about this league is, remember, it's a 24 game regular season. You can't fall behind too much in a season that short. As now Toronto's played 11 games, they sit in third place in the league with 17 points. So I love what this league has done, and how Battle Bay Street got a packed Scotiabank Arena. And you mentioned there, Dave, you had women's teams there. You had so many kids. You had fans, young, old, hanging out there. And one of the big things that people have said, and players have said, staff has said about this, is that they love seeing little boys there who are seeing women be at the top of the hockey world. And it's great to see. And yes, Toronto got a big 3-0 win to keep pace with Minnesota and Montreal. And it was a really fun game. And I hope we see more games with the PWHL Toronto team being held in Scotiabank, because the fans have shown many times over that, hey, they want to see this team, they want to get behind this team. And hey, who doesn't want to come out and see Montreal and Toronto, no matter what league it is?
Exactly. Like it was a really fun brand of hockey. And if you catch, well, this is a shameless plug, but if you look on our Instagram real quick, the first goal that Jesse Comfort scored in the third period, it was extremely loud in there. Uh, Honestly, the amount of screaming has made my ears ring so damn hard that I'm basically standing by the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, and it's like you can just hear it ringing. But it was loud AF in that building. I'm not even joking when I say this. Like it was a lot of fun, and you know, I'm not. I'm going to be completely honest. I wish there were more games like that in the city of Toronto. Obviously, with the Toronto Six no longer being a thing, they were finally starting to get it together. And then, of course, the PHF had basically just merged with the other women's hockey league, and now we have the PWHL, and
Well,
it's like now you're basically back at square one all over again. And
I know people say it's a merger. It wasn't a merger. The PW investors bought the PHF assets.
I don't know. That kind of boggles my mind still. It's like you buy out your competitor and you make a new league completely. It's like what happens with the other women's players who are basically out of a job now? What do you do?
Well, that was a big thing in terms of, well, we saw what happened, how it was a major. We saw the problems that arose from that earlier,
Yeah, of course.
before the league launched.
It was really great hockey, and of course, with Black Girl Hockey Club, and it just created a really good vibe, and I honestly enjoyed it. Like, I mean, you could probably see the same thing at the Marlies, but like it's not as big of an atmosphere as you would get, say, based off of a 20,000 seat stadium. But then again, I digress. I don't know. Like, I would like to see more of that going forward. Of course, it was Nursey Night. It was in conjunction with Black Girl Hockey Club. Honestly, it was a lot of fun, and I would love to see more stuff like that going forward. Troy, what did you think about everything?
I got to watch a large portion of the game. I thought it was amazing. It was some of the best hockey I've seen in a very, very long time.
Hmm.
I was very impressed by how fast Marie-Philippe Poulin actually is. Holy shit, does she have some wheels on her? I'm guaranteed that she is faster than like 70% of the men. Like
Real.
unbelievable speed, like incredible. I love it. The pace to the game, the constant back and forth, like the 0-0 score all the way into the third where anything can happen. Like that's exciting hockey. Like that's the kind of shit I want to watch. That's the kind of shit I want to see. I'm glad that the two of them put on a great show in front of a sold out crowd at the ACC or Scotiabank or whatever this building's called now.
Mhm.
Um, I would love to see more of it. For those people who, that were working, that, they work, their schedules conflict with watching the game, I understand. I feel you. I don't get to watch a lot of the games based on how my work schedule works. However, for you Hayden ass square headed motherfuckers out there who are not watching simply because it's women, you're missing out on some really good shit. I hope you take your head out of your ass and start watching because you're missing some excellent hockey.
It was a lot of fun. And you know what? Like, I really don't like this whole disparity issue between men's sports and women's sports when it comes to the pay gap, right? Obviously, there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And if the PWHL can get on the same level as, say, the NHL when it comes to like the support and of course getting more fans in the seats, and then of course being able to be not only like I guess work in partnership with say other teams, like say for example MLSE and PWHL Toronto, of course working in partnership with one another, but also like say Ottawa Sports Entertainment, the Ottawa like ownership group, Boston's ownership group, MSG owning the New York team, and the list could go potentially go on and on and on and on and on. Seeing them play at bigger, like say your regular NHL arenas would be not only great for revenue, but also great for the sport in general. But of course, like this is obviously the league's rookie season, and I would like to see some form of significant growth. The fact that there's like dudes out there who are like purely hockey bros out there. I've saw a few hockey bros in PWHL gear during the game on Friday night. And it was a welcome change of pace because a lot of them were like really excited to see good affordable and also like say competitive hockey. And it's like it really begs the question, like, what are we doing as fans in order to be able to just, well, not necessarily hijack, but more just say take over the building and say let corporate sponsors know that like this is real hockey out here. Because like I'd say particularly in Toronto and in Toronto specifically, and we all know this for a fact. It is a very dead building in Scotiabank Arena, unless like say the team scores, and even then it's still quiet, right? I know some fans do listen to us out here, and they would probably dispute that had they been to a game recently. But just being in the building, it's dead, and it's not more like a lively festival like attitude. It feels kind of like a funeral in there for a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, Avery, wouldn't you agree with that? Because like I'm probably sure I ran into you during All-Star weekend, and like obviously it was a little more livelier than normal in there, correct?
Mhm. Yeah, no, All-Star game crowds in Canada at least are usually like that though. But again, that when it comes to the NHL level, it really is. You've got a lot of fans who are priced out, and
Mm-hmm.
this goes to all markets in Canada where the traditional fan is priced out of seeing a game. In markets like Toronto, we see a playoff. I mean, it's not as bad. It's not as bad Edmonton, but you do see in Toronto other markets where the common fan is priced out due to the Bay Street crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that the PW has kept things more affordable for families, for people of different backgrounds, because that's going to be really important going forward, making sure that these year one fans are with you in year 5, year 6, year 7, year 8 of the PW, and they follow stories like what's happening in Toronto, Ottawa. I mean, you mentioned Toronto, PW Toronto. They've now won 4 straight games after their slow starts.
Mm-hmm.
They picked up wins over New York, Minnesota, Boston, and Montreal. On top now, Toronto's got a good thing going on their run here, and they've been led points wise by Natalie Spooner. She's been having a great season so far here, leading the way offensively for Toronto. And of course, if you don't know Natalie Spooner, come on,
Yeah,
she's
for
leading
real,
the
but come
way
on,
for.
man.
She has 10 goals this year for Toronto. That leads all players in the PWHL with goals. And when it comes to points, she said second place, only behind Alex Carpenter of New York. So you got Carpenter first with New York, Spooner second, then behind her, Grace Zoomwinkle from Minnesota, 9 points. Marie-Philippe Poulin with 9 in Montreal. So the big dogs are eating offensively in this league right now. Not surprising to see Carpenter, Spooner, and Marie-Philippe Poulin in top 5 and scoring the league start the year here.
Of course. I would like to point out that like Toronto did set the world record for a women's hockey game, at least for an indoor attendance record at 19,285. Of course, my fiance and I were a part of that 19,285. So, not to brag or anything, but it was a very fun environment, and I would love to be able to see more of it. Hopefully, the PWHL and the NHL work out a deal where, say, some of the bigger arenas can be able to host PWHL playoff games. Don't get me wrong, the Mattamy Athletic Center definitely deserves to have its day in the sun when it comes to a playoff game. But I have to say this right now, like I'm probably sure the building would be like on an earthquake like level when it comes to the sound if, say, there was a PWHL playoff game in Toronto. You know what I mean?
You
Like
never
over
know.
the heat level.
Yeah, like I like just the decibel level alone hit like what 125, 130 in the arena. Just at one particular point to be able to hear that consistently. Like, I mean, yes, make sure you take Advil to the game, but in all honesty, I'd love to see something that crazy. You know what I mean? So we're gonna keep an eye on this, and obviously, we're extremely excited to see Toronto and Montreal renew hostilities in hockey, and of course, be able to give us great hockey as a whole. So, just looking at the PWHL the PW standings real quick. Minnesota, of course, is currently leading after 12 games. They have a 5-2-2-3 record, of course. 5 wins, 2 overtime wins, 2 overtime losses, and 3 regulation losses, leading the league with 21 points. Montreal is right behind them with 4 wins, 3 overtime wins, 2 overtime, and 2 regulation losses with 20 points. And of course Toronto, with the recent win, they're now at 5 wins, an overtime win, and 5 regulation losses. They haven't lost in overtime yet. But of course, knock on wood, that does not change. They currently have 17 points. New York is 4th in the league. Boston is 5th in the league. And bringing up the rear is Ottawa, who are currently sitting at 2 regulation wins, 4 overtime losses, and 3 regulation losses, good for 10 points. Toronto and Montreal will renew hostilities again in the month of March, as they will be partaking in the Takeover Series coming up on March the 16th, March the 17th at PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh. I'd say get your tickets now because these games are selling out fast, and if you want to be able to see good hockey, I'd be able to enjoy myself there. Of course, Montreal and Toronto will also be playing again on March the 6th at Mattamy Athletic Center, right in the heart of downtown Toronto. So if you still want your Montreal-Toronto fix, it's gonna be happening a little bit sooner rather than later. Are you guys planning on? I know Avery. I know you're in Edmonton right now, but do you actually plan on seeing a PW game at some point?
Oh, 1,000%. No, 1,000%. I'm gonna try and come down. Most likely it'll be Toronto. I would like to go to New York, see my boy Howie Draper coaching up PWHL New York, but I think most likely it'll be a game seeing PWHL Toronto. It's easy for me to get to Toronto to see them at Mattamy, so we'll see. And I'm sure next year there'll be more neutral site games across North America. I know we have neutral site games right now more in the East Coast of the United States, but I'm sure next year we'll learn about more neutral site games. Maybe we'll get a couple of games more west of Minnesota. So who knows? You never know. Putting that energy out there to get some Western neutral site games in 2025.
Like I know what you call it. Los Angeles does deserve a women's hockey game out there at least. Washington, Seattle, maybe Portland, Oregon. Who knows? Maybe even like Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada. Like those are some great sites. Those are some great Western sites, at least south of the border. Of course, on the west side, on the Canadian side of things, like Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. I'm pretty sure they would love it the same way too. So, Troy, you plan on seeing a game at all? If you can try and get your hands on tickets, Troy, Bueller.
Yeah, I'm here. It's the Zoom thing on my phone. It's still doing this weird thing. Yes, if I be able to align the universe with tickets and money and time, absolutely, I would love to go down and see this amazingness in person.
All right.
Watching it on the TV doesn't, from your account, it doesn't sound like there's any justice. So I need to go down there and see what's happening in real time.
Try and get your hands on a jersey at least. I didn't think they were anything special, at least on TV, but up close, they're actually pretty cool. So,
do they look better than the All-Star jerseys?
100%. But to each their own, I guess. All right, let's switch gears here. We're going to shift from the PW to the NHL itself. Of course, Saturday night we saw the Toronto Maple Leaf them take on the Anaheim Ducks. Of course, Anaheim currently in a rebuilding mode, so of course we had to see various players from the San Diego Gulls, the AHL affiliate, play in the show, and it was a beatdown at Scotiabank Arena on Saturday night. Of course, John Tavares was out with a day-to-day injury. Let me rephrase that. John Tavares was out with an undisclosed injury, and he is listed as day-to-day. Of course, the Leafs are pretty much doing fine without him right now, as Bobby McMahon has come in and filled in the role that that Tavares has initially had on the first line or on the second line. Bobby McMahon, of course, coming out of the gate with just 5 goals in his his last 3 or 4 games alone, including a hat trick. And he's keeping pace. He's trying to keep pace with Austin Matthews. And that was pretty evident pretty evident Saturday night when the Leafs beat the Ducks 9-2. Of course, Matthews scoring his 46th, 47th, and 48th goals, respectively. And the shocking thing about it was Matthews only got about 15 minutes worth of ice time. The dude basically got 5 points within 15 minutes. That's basically a point every 3 minutes if you're going to average it out, and that's pretty scary. I'm going to be completely honest. That's pretty scary, and it's just like, how good is this dude? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm just an objective hockey analyst, which I know most of you are out there, like looking at Austin Matthews alone and the torrid pace that he's on as of right now, I feel like there's another Hart Trophy literally waiting in the wings for him. Avery, I know you would probably think like, oh, okay, Connor McDavid's taking another Hart, but like there is actually a legitimate race heating up for this trophy at this point. Wouldn't you agree?
No, of course there is. Of course, a legitimate race heating up for the Hart Trophy right now. And with Austin Matthews, Shayna Goldman put on her Twitter that Austin is on pace now for a 75-goal campaign. And in this modern era of the NHL, the idea of someone getting to 70 goals seems absurd. The idea of someone getting to 75 with how the NHL game has evolved and how it's hard to score now, it just seems ridiculous. But you know what? Hey, last year we saw Connor McDavid break the 150-point mark. So Austin Matthews getting to 75 goals is entirely in play because there are some players who are just, as we know, head and shoulders better than the rest. And you know, Austin Matthews, this season I had Austin threatening or breaking the 60-goal mark. Did I have him at 75? I did not. Like, that to me is an outrageous pace right now he's on.
He's like 27 goals away from the mark right now. And currently at the time of this recording, he has 48 goals. There is about, say, 30 to 32 games left in the Leaf season. If this guy were to score maybe an average of 1.25 goals per game, I'd say he'd probably hit it before April. He'd probably hit 75 before April, hands down.
29 games left, and the next closest guy in the scoring race is Sam Reinhart, and he has 39 goals.
Oh my goodness, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. 29 games left. Of course, at the time of this recording, like the Leafs will have already played St. Louis on Monday afternoon, and then I believe it's Arizona on Wednesday.
It might be Vegas.
Or Vegas on when this episode is released. So of course Matthews could very well hit 50 in St. Louis. If he hits another hat trick like that, I don't see anybody touching him for at least the Rocket Richard Trophy. Flat out. If he were a playmaker and a scorer the same way, like Connor McDavid is right now, like I would definitely put him in heavy consideration for the Art Ross Trophy as well, because we haven't had a Leaf player win the Art Ross in a very long time. Avery, I know you're going to double check this for us, so please do. But
yeah, right now it's his to lose.
Yes, exactly.
It's gonna be interesting down the stretch, but I mean, like, at least in terms of the Rocket Richard, like, no, nobody's catch.
Not unless Sam Reinhart scores like 9 goals in one game.
Yeah, and with Matthews, we mentioned him having 6 hat tricks this season
already.
And I believe they said this is the second time this season he's gone back-to-back games with hat tricks.
Mm-hmm.
It puts him in some very rarefied company. The top 10 of like most hat tricks in a season is basically all Lemieux and Gretz. Okay. So
really, is it only between those two? Like not even Ovechkin hit that?
I mean, I think he's in there, but like from what I remember seeing, I think Gretzky's on there like 4 times. Gretzky, he's had in 1983-84, he had 10 hat tricks that season. I'm still trying to pull it up, but that was the one thing that stood out the most, was the fact that he had 10 in one season. I know he had 6 a bunch of times, and then he's had 4. Matthews ties Lemieux for 6 in a season. And I remember that's something that they made sure to ask him about during the post game interview, if he knew that he was signed with Lemieux for most hat tricks in the season. And he's like, no, didn't have a clue, but he thought it was really cool.
Yeah, Wayne. Yeah. Wayne had 10 hat tricks twice in his career, 83, 84, and 81, 82. When he had in both years, he also had multiple 4-goal games. And in 81, 82, he had a 5-goal game on top of 3 4-goal games and 6 hat tricks. 81, 82.
That
was the. And again, if those of you know your Gretzky history if you know your history on Wayne Gretzky on 81, 82, that was the year in which he had 212 points and 92 goals.
Was that the 50 and 39 season?
That was, yes, it was 50 and 39. That was that exact same season. And you asked me, Dave, about the Art Ross. Yeah. So, not in history of NHL, not a single Leaf has won the Art Ross. A grand total of 0 Leafs have won the Art Ross.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Like in the Leafs, I don't know, 4 or 5 year history, no Leaf has actually won the Art Ross.
The Art Ross was established in 1947, and yeah, not a single Leaf has won. All through the era of the original 6, from 47 to 67, no Leaf won the Art Ross. Like guys like Elmer Lack won it, Roy Conacher, Ted Lindsay, Gordie Howe, Bernie Geoffrion, Jean Beliveau, like names like these, Dickie Moore, Bobby Hull. These guys in the original 6 era are guys who won the Art Ross. Not a single Leaf is in that list of original 6 era players to have won the Art Ross trophy.
Like you couldn't even get a Bobby Baun or a Frank Mahovlich or even a Charlie Conacher or even that's insane. That's absolutely insane. Like Marner really has to step his game up at this point, because if this kid really wants, and I say this with all sincerity, if Marner really wants a contract extension, he really has to step it up and like literally be like Art Ross level material if he wants that extension. And I know his contract is going to be coming up at some point or another. And it's like Nylander's gotten his extension this year at 90 mil. Matthews got his extension for 5 years. Forget what the running number is on that one. But we all know Marner's going to want big boy money at that, like a big boy extension at that point. And it's like Matthews has won a Hart Trophy and 2 Rocket Richards. Nylander has basically been the clutch player that we need him to be. The guy's been an all-star, 2-3 times now? And he's deserving of that extension. Yeah, Marner hasn't done anything, and like obviously this is going to be a heavy talking point over the next few weeks. But out of those three, out of the three of them, the core three, with the exception of Tavares and Riley, I really don't think Marner has very notable like experiences with the Leafs recently. Then again, I could be wrong. Wouldn't you guys agree with that, or like do you guys disagree?
Go ahead, Troy.
If you can hear us.
Sorry, was Marner doing what now?
Like, has out of the core five that the Leafs have signed, like in Tavares, Riley, Matthews, Nylander, and Marner, like I don't think Marner has anything notable, worthy of note in the last, like, say, few years. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, other than I guess personal milestones, it's really hard to say. I would like to see more from him. I mean, he did take a turn playing defense the other night against the Ducks. I guess just because it was like, well, the game's already wrapped up, you give him some more ice time, having worked on his defensive skills. But I mean, other than I guess things that may or may not be built into his contract based on point production, things like that. I mean, I as much as I do kind of like to sit him a little bit. He has been fairly consistent this season. So I mean, it I think it's more the little things that don't get counted on like stats and things like that are really what's counting for him right now. I mean, we like to focus on the other things like his defensive awareness, passing, shooting, things like that, or whatever kind of play may have gone wrong for him or whatnot. But like when you actually take a look at the smaller parts of this game this season, he really hasn't been all that bad.
No. Like, I'm not shitting on him when it comes to that. I mean, like, just of course, like everyone's had their niche, and of course, everyone has stepped. Everyone in that core five group that I've mentioned has essentially stepped up to a certain point. I mean, Morgan Riley is not the scoring, not the scoring monster that we would essentially need as a two-way defenseman, but he's capped as best as he can for the last 5 years. Tavares, of course, obviously, with one of the most clutch goals in Leafs history over the last 10 years, with defeating Tampa Bay and moving the Leafs to the second round. Austin Matthews with at least 3 trophies under his belt, and William Nylander basically being the clutch player that the Leafs have sorely needed in a very long time. And then, of course, you have Mitch Marner, who has been, well, I don't know, he's been at least top 10 in league scoring twice in the last 5 years, but I haven't really seen anything worthy of note with him.
So it sounds like you're talking about more in terms of like a standout breakout performance. And
exactly.
If that's what you mean, then yes, we do absolutely need to see more of that. Because we've seen Willie Styles on the highlight reel. We've seen Tavares. We've seen Matthews. How many times? Not that I'm complaining about that.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, if we're gonna pay the big bucks, prove it. Like be that game changer. Like, cause we know everybody plans around Austin Matthews. Like, and William Nylander mostly.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, make it seem like you're more than just along for the ride.
Pretty much. I think it's just it's more along the lines of like what's going to happen. Say given the current status of everything, because like I said, his contract is coming up very, very shortly, and essentially after a while, the Leafs are going to have to make a decision where it's like, who are you going to get rid of at a certain point, and I like not to anger very many Leaf fans right now, but I feel like Marner's on the chopping block at this point. And again, I could be completely wrong in this situation, and I could just be worrying about nothing. But I mean, it's still worthy of note in this situation to actually have this conversation. So I mean, Avery, what do you think about this whole thing?
It's a tough spot right now from Mitch Marner. He is the guy who, if anybody is going to be an outside looking in, it is going to be Mitch Marner in terms of a guy you're going to Drake. Again, you mentioned it there, Dave. You've locked up Nylander. You got Austin Matthews. You're still going to keep John Tavares. That is a guy who, I mean, if you're a Leafs fan, you would like to keep all these guys. You would want to keep all these guys on your roster as a part of your top 6 forward unit. But I'm not sure I'm not sure how Brad Living sees Marner on this team going forward. I'm not sure what Brad Living's play is for next year, but I really don't know if he sees the future for him as a Leaf going forward. Because
Mhm.
so it really we're gonna see about we're gonna see what how Brad feels things come summertime here.
Of course. Like again, if he becomes the player I would love for him to be, and the same player he was on the London Knights during all those Memorial Cup runs, like I feel he could definitely get his hands on an Art Ross and be the first Leaf to do it. But at the same point in time, it's like you've been top 10 in scoring over the last five years. On two separate occasions, of course. 2020 and 2020, 2022, 23. And it's like, okay, cool. But Matthews has done everything in his power to actually, score more goals and, actually get rewarded for it by winning an NHL trophy. That, although individual accolades don't really tell the whole story about a player's career, I may be talking bullshit here, but seeing so many different notable players on at least on this Leafs team in that core five group be able to actually make contributions, and then of course with Marner just being Marner, it's like we I think we know as a fan base, it's like, okay, he's the odd one out in this situation, and in order for the 5 points of the star to actually work, at least when it comes to the Leafs core five, it's like Marner kind of has to inflate himself to actually be that strong point of the start. Otherwise, it's just going to be a giant rectangle, and then there's going to be like one little dot, like literally outside of that rectangle, where like everything is meshing together. And like I know this analogy sounds a little stupid, but it's like essentially Marner's the odd one out here. And what do you do? What do you do if you're Brad Living and Brendan Shanahan, right? I mean, Sheldon Keefe can only do so much by inserting him into like the into the top three or the top six, depending on which line he plays on and who he plays with. But I don't know. For me, I'm a huge fan of him, and like I've loved how he's played since London, and I would really love for him to step up. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, I'm not out here bashing him. It's just like, yes, I'm a little critical of how he's playing, but I want to see him do better. I really do. And it's like it's really hard to defend somebody who does not want to get better. So again, I don't know if I'm just basically beating a dead horse, at least when it comes to you guys or anybody out there who's listening. But I don't know. It's like it's very difficult for me to root for someone who can't step up. Well, I don't know, folks. Like, let me know, let us know on Twitter and on Instagram. It's like, is this really is it really justified to give Marner an extension, or should he be shipped on elsewhere, and should we move on from him? Just let us know in the comments when this episode drops. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next topic here, and Avery, I'm gonna let you take this one real quick. So we're gonna talk about Phil Kessel potentially coming to the Vancouver Canucks, as he is currently working with the Abbotsford Canucks, of course, the AHL affiliate. Avery, I'm gonna let you take this one real quick.
It's been talked about for quite some time. Kessel's trying to get back into the league somewhere, and the Canucks organization has given him a lifeline. They're giving him a chance. He's skating with Abbotsford right now, and Canucks reporters who watch him skate with the Canucks said that he did look a little bit out of shape. He did look like he was lagging a little bit, so it's going to take some time to get himself back up to NHL speed, which is reasonable because he hasn't played an NHL game in many months. It's going to take some time for him to get back, like any player who has skated in a pro setting with a team for quite some time. But you know what? Phil Kessel in Vancouver is not a bad look at all. He's still a guy who can give you a decent option as a depth forward if need be. If need be, can chip in to your second line. Still a guy capable of giving you 40 points, 50 points, and adding him with the likes of guys like Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, Brock Besser, having a veteran like that who can still score, that's a good look for Vancouver if things do work out for him, and he does sign a deal for the rest of the year for the Canucks.
Well, I mean, he would be a great asset. He would be a great asset moving forward. Of course, the last time he did play for a Canadian team was obviously with the Leafs, and of course, with him just eating street meat left, right, and center. He didn't really get a fair shake being a goal scorer, and being particularly a goal scorer, because like obviously there was more of a need for. There wasn't really that much of a need for him when it came to just his abilities. It's like, okay, he's just here to score goals and that's it. And like obviously Toronto really didn't seem to read between the lines when it came to that. So next thing you know, he goes to Pittsburgh, wins 2 cups there, plays out his career, and makes a trip to Arizona. And now, like, what, he wins another cup with Vegas last year. I feel like he's like, if he can get himself back into in-game shape, like he would be a great piece to a potential cup run for Vancouver. And they could potentially finally be the one to win a cup for a Canadian team for like the first time in 31 years, because it has been that long. And I know Vancouver's on a tear right now. So I would like to see him step out, like, well, step back onto the ice and just help Vancouver break out and be the team that Vancouver has been dying for, and that's being a Stanley Cup winning team. So we'll see how that goes. Troy, any thoughts?
Having a Stanley Cup winner in your dressing room is never a bad idea. I think the experience that he can provide and share with the fellows in Vancouver will definitely be beneficial. I think he's still one of those guys who still has, I think he's good for probably, a good 10, 15, maybe 20 goals. Like Avery said, 40, 50 points. Good solid depth player, and you can easily insert him in your top 6 somewhere. So I mean, I think it's I don't think it's a bad move. I mean, is he taking a roster spot from somebody? Yeah, but I mean, like, isn't there always one guy on the team somewhere who shouldn't be there, but just happens to be there? Everybody has it on their roster, but I don't think Phil Kessel's that kind of guy.
Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we see something good come out of this. If he doesn't end up making the Canucks roster within the next few days or so, I could potentially see him hanging it up. I mean, 3 Stanley Cups in your career is pretty significant. Most guys don't even get to see 1, let alone 2. So, for all intents and purposes, let's wait and see what happens, and obviously good luck to Phil. All right, finally we're going to look at the Stadium Series games between Philadelphia and New Jersey, and of course the Rangers and the Islanders. Before we get started on that, Avery, what were your feelings on the Stadium Series jerseys? Because I know there was a lot of backlash. Actually, Troy, I'm going to ask your opinion on this too. There was a lot of backlash between all 4 designs. Of course, the Phillies jersey sticking out as like one of the best ones. Of course, the Rangers were at least, well, interchangeably. It was 1 and 2 between New York and Philly, and then of course you had New Jersey, and then of course you had the Islanders as well. And it's like those jerseys weren't so great looking, but then again, that's just personal opinion. What did you guys think, at least?
Well, I believe this is a topic we covered a couple weeks ago, but I'll be more than happy to tell you that I didn't like any one of them. I'll be happy to tell you that again. The New York Ranger one looks like one that you'd find in a bodega. So one that Auntie made so you don't get sued. The New Jersey one, like I said before, like that, I think that should have been a glow in the dark jersey. Because like just the way that the color set up. Like for me, like I like to draw here and there. I do colors like that. So when I look at it, I'm thinking that should have been a glow in the dark jersey. The Flyers one is just like there's only so much you can do with orange, white, and black. There's only so many ways that you can transform that. I don't know if you agree, Dave, but because Philly doesn't necessarily have an ultimate logo, either they do something with the Liberty Bell or you put Gritty's face on. Like, you got to change it up, man. Like, Philly, what are you doing?
I fully agree, because it's like, it's tough. It's tough to do anything with that, and it's like the Liberty Bell would be a great extension of that. But like obviously, it's like you said, you can't really think outside the box when it comes to like orange, white, and black, unless you put a fucking pumpkin on it. And pumpkins are only in season from like September to November, right? So not much more you can do in that situation.
Like get creative. Like you guys, like whoever was the creative team behind this jersey. I mean, kudos to you. You got your paper because you hit shuffle on a Microsoft Paint program.
Oh my
and
god.
you got that. But like, come on. There's nobody in that realm where it's like, okay, we need to do something different with the logo. Like, come on, man. And these guys are getting paid the big bucks to do this shit.
I
Meanwhile,
know.
guys like us are brainstorming and we can figure out their problems within 10 seconds of talking it out.
Like,
Come
dude,
on.
I've seen Instagrammers and TikTokers find ways to like redesign Philadelphia's jersey, and it's like they're actually doing 10 times better than half the people in like the design team for the Flyers. It's crazy.
Like, it's so mind-boggling how nobody's thought of anything. I mean, like, look at Buffalo. There's only so many things you can do with Buffalo, but they've tried. They have like 7 different things.
Exactly. Like if you look at all the iterations of like say the Stadium Series jerseys, the Winter Classic jerseys, the Centennial Classic and the Heritage Classic, then of course with like all the third jerseys that have come out, like there have been many different variations of things. And so the one thing that remains violently constant is the Flyers jersey just does not change. And it's kind of it's kind of disheartening to see because it's like given the history of the franchise, it's like you have so many different opportunities with Philadelphia to try and change it around, but like there's not much more you can do. I mean, Avery, I'm probably sure there has been like what a wide variety of Oilers jerseys, and like you've seen different variations left, right, and center, and yet still like there's a form of creativity there. But like, could you ever see one with Philadelphia?
Well, first of all, with Edmonton over the years, not that much, not really. They've been a team that stuck to. They've been a team obviously before that needs to go more bold. Like their Heritage Classic jersey was probably the boldest one they've had since they unveiled the McFarland jerseys back in 2001. And when it comes to the Flyers, they're a team which Stadium Series jerseys should be radical. Stadium Series jerseys should be something you can't pinpoint anything you've seen before. So that's the thing NHL has to work on. Unfortunately, it'll be in the future with Fanatics, and that's a whole different topic for another day, getting to the mess of Fanatics in the NHL. But in general, looking at the jerseys here, the four that they had, I actually did not mind the New York Rangers one. I thought that was a nice jersey. I thought I liked the rich white look as a base color with the lettering. Philadelphia is what it was. It was okay. The Devils, I didn't mind the minimalist look with the red. The
Mm-hmm.
Islanders, come on, the Islanders. I didn't. Islanders looked far. We saw it on Twitter. People thought it looked too Oilers-ish what the Islanders wore. And again, you have two teams who have very similar colors. There's gonna be times where it might happen. But I would have loved to have seen the Islanders, and unfortunately, it's not going to happen under Lou Lamoriello. It's not going to happen, but I would have loved to have seen a Fisherman's homage jersey where you throw in some teal, where you do something radical with that. But again, Lou Lamoriello is in charge. You're not going to get radical the Islanders. It isn't going to happen. But I think again, NHL teams in same series jerseys, they play it too safe. They always have. And when they have gone radical, it's been more or less like when the Avalanche first played in a same series game back in around what a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What they did was they just blew up the Avalanche and put half on the front of the jersey. I mean, sure, different, but blowing up a logo isn't that radical. Like it's not really anything too over the top. And that's what NHL teams fail to do. They fail to give us something that we've never truly seen before, and it's a bit underwhelming.
It's an
Kudos to
extremely.
the Carolina Hurricanes, though, for consistently bringing back the best logo in sports, the Hartford Whalers.
Oh yes,
Nothing beats
agreed.
that.
Agreed.
Nothing beats that.
But at this point, it's like, what do you do, right? Because like there aren't very many good ideas left, and like obviously there are some creative designers out there who can find ways to, make things work. But of course, you got to stick with what you know, at least from the NHL standpoint, because it's like, why fix something that's broken according to them when
It,
it's just basically broken all around. But I digress.
it's weird how it's so subtle, the Hartford Whalers one. And I mean, like, even to an extent, the Montreal Canadiens wasn't like that. Super subtle, super simple. But like for the like anyone I've talked to who have seen the Hartford Whalers logo, like they'll agree, like the color scheme, everything. Like it's perfect. It fits. I mean, are there whales in Hartford? Probably not. You
No,
know,
no,
but I mean, like it for some reason it works. It's just there's just something that's so simple and soothing to the eye, where it's like this is a fucking masterpiece, despite the fact that this is super, super, super simple.
exactly. Like the messed up part about the Hartford Whalers was like the fact that like they had to relocate to Carolina afterwards. But I'm fully in agreement with you on this one. Like the Whalers jerseys were some of the most fire jerseys out there. And it sucks that like, they really didn't get to see like a potential Stanley Cup run because they always either got stymied by Quebec or Montreal or New York in the first round. It was just terrible. And I know we're getting off topic, but like we're gonna get back to the Stadium Series. We're gonna get back to the Stadium Series this past weekend in just a moment, folks. But the Whalers jerseys were beautiful jerseys, and hopefully there is a way for Hartford to potentially get a team back again, or at least say a minor hockey team. I mean, I know there probably is.
Well, AHL's there, but the building is far too old for an AHL team. That's not
Yeah,
going to happen.
yeah,
Like you need a new building because my buddy Alex Thomas does a commentary for the Wolfpack,
yeah,
and it's been known before. Like until they get a new building, that's not happening. Sorry. I know the people who want it to happen again, but Hartford is not in terms of priority for an expansion team. It's
yeah.
not above. It's not above Atlanta. It's not above Houston. I would bet money it isn't even above, say, a Portland or a Milwaukee or
That's
or Salt Lake.
That's nuts. But then again, what can you do, right? Like if Atlanta deserves a team over like say over Quebec City, which I know another hockey team in Canada makes more logical sense than another American city. I mean, Atlanta would be the next best place to put a hockey team because obviously you want to tap into the urban market in Atlanta as it is, but that's a whole different story for another day. Again, I would just love to see Hartford back in the league, but that let's go back to the topic at hand here because I know we've kind of been drifting off here. Of course, Philadelphia took on New Jersey, and of course, the Rangers took on the Islanders at MetLife Stadium. Whereas the site of WrestleMania 35 and WrestleMania 29. Also, home of the Giants and the New York Jets. This past weekend, all four teams in the tri-state area managed to play a little bit of a round robin, a little bit of a home and home series between all four New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey-based teams. Of course, New Jersey slapping the living daylight out of Philadelphia. If you saw on Instagram, of course, PK Subban running in with like I don't know what he was wearing, but like homeboy was just getting the lineup fired up, and then like afterwards it was just like it sounded half dead in that locker room, with Subban like basically listing off the starting six, including the goaltender. It was just like if my dude ran into the Leafs locker room like that, I would be ready to run through a steel plate wall. I am not kidding. Like homeboy was just out there having fun, styling and profiling like he's the Black Ric Flair, and everyone's just like, "Woo!" It's like, do you guys not have any personality? Oh,
Yeah, it was weird them not really going with it. And you mentioned what PK was wearing. The man was out here on back-to-back days rocking a red and a blue and a red fur coat, the
yeah,
shades, wearing leather pants today. And that's the one thing I like about PK. And we've known for a long time. This man holds it down with fashion. I love the fact that he's been allowed on ESPN to go off and do his own thing because a lot of companies would want you to fall in line with the wardrobe. I love the fact ESPN lets PK wear what he wants.
right.
So I didn't see what he was wearing, but it sounds like you guys are describing if the Kool-Aid Man was a pimp in a fur coat.
Oh
A
man.
pimp named Slickback, but instead of purple, it was red.
Oh my god, Troy, what the hell, man? No, like I agree with that, but that comparison was just next level out of pocket, man. That's my level out of pocket. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Oh man, like no disrespect to PK, simply because I didn't see it, but like that's what my mind sees based on the descriptions I'm hearing. That's what's formulated in my
That's
head.
pretty much what it was. And like honestly, like he
Yeah.
looked like he was having a lot of fun yesterday. So or sorry, not even yesterday, just this whole weekend in general. So you know what? Kudos to him for that one.
Yep, for sure. As
All right.
long as he's having fun and not making fun of people in their weight, right? We're trying to
True.
backtrack from making a terrible joke that nobody got.
Oh my god. All right, focusing on the games at hand real quick. Of course, this past Sunday, Rangers and Islanders were the marquee matchup. Of course, it was the Battle of New York. I'm surprised Buffalo wasn't involved in that situation, considering they're in New York State. But then again, I digress in that whole situation. And that's just a whole thing that I'm going to tear into another day. Another day. But of course, the Rangers come back and stun the Islanders, who were initially leading 4-1. Rangers mount a massive comeback and score within Artemi Panarin scoring within the first 10 seconds of overtime, giving the Rangers a 6-5 victory at MetLife Stadium. Absolutely insane. Rangers were basically left for dead in the second period, and then Panarin managed to just help the Rangers push back, from a 4-1 deficit, and just basically tell the Islanders, "Hey, you suck. We're the only New York team allowed." I mean, Buffalo would like to enter that conversation and say, "Suck your mother. I still live in New York State. I mean, I live in upstate New York, but I'm still give you an upstate ass whooping." But the fact that they weren't even involved in the conversation is another story for me. New York, of course, coming out and just basically embarrassing the Islanders, and now the Islanders are basically running tucking tail at this point. New Jersey also winning against Philadelphia on Saturday night by a score of 4-2. And there was a lot of it was pretty dead at one point where Philadelphia was leading 1-0, and then New Jersey and Philadelphia both managed to combine for good field goals in the second period, and it was essentially just dead after that point. So if any of you guys managed to catch those games this weekend, what are your thoughts?
I got to see a little bit of the Flyers game. I thought that was pretty cool. The one thing I noticed during the sports highlights is that they completely glossed over Nico Hischier scoring. I think on a breakaway. What was it? Something like 11 seconds into that game or
Yeah,
whatever it was. Like eh, the fact that he was one of the fastest, like he set a record for the outdoor game. Nobody's talking about it.
right.
Like, what did he do? Like, what do y'all have on him for them to not lead with that?
Sorry, before you continue, I would like to correct myself on that. New Jersey won 6-3 as opposed to 4-2. So, my mistake, folks. Anyways, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't see the Ranger one.
Mhm.
But I feel like Buffalo doesn't get anything. Like Buffalo don't the league doesn't give Buffalo anything because they're like you have the Galleria and you have Leaf fans. What more do you want?
Right.
And I'm sure Sabres fans are gonna be like, we don't got Leaf fans. Yeah, you do. Look at your building whenever we come there. It's mostly us running your shit. But no, I haven't seen the highlights of the Rangers Islander game yet. I'm sure that game was pretty fire. Most of these outdoor games are pretty good, but I think you gotta freshen it up a little bit. Maybe try to do something a little different, or maybe try not giving Boston or Chicago one of these games and see what happens, right?
Here's what bothers me about this whole thing about the Stadium Series games or any outdoor game. It's like you just mentioned. There are 32 teams in this league, right? And you essentially have the same matchups going between Chicago and whoever, or Boston and whoever, or you'll have like some team from like the southernmost state in the United States of America. Like, for example, this past year, with Seattle and Las Vegas, although Seattle was a good backdrop at T-Mobile Park, with the Pacific Ocean in the background. but like you had like teams like Dallas and Nashville in an outdoor game where it's like you could have essentially had a Toronto Montreal game where Montreal could have had their first outdoor game at home, but that never happened. You could have Boston and New York play in a stadium series game between the just reigniting the original six matchup. You could have Chicago and Toronto. You could have Detroit and New York, Detroit and Boston, Detroit and Montreal. Yeah, you essentially have the same teams in these outdoor games, and it kind of just ruins the whole magic behind it. And it's like, what are we doing here, right? Like LA is too hot for an outdoor game, although they've managed to make it work somehow.
Not that hot when they had it. It was like 14 degrees Celsius when they had it. So I mean, warm, yes, but not that chaotic or not that.
No. I know. I'm just saying, like, it still was seasonably warm down there because, like, obviously, the closer you are to the equator, it's like the hotter it is, right? But at the same point in time, it's like the state of California rarely sees snow or rarely sees temperatures below, like, say 10 degrees Celsius. Like only in a rare instance would you see that. But at the same point in time, it's like you've got like Vancouver played their outdoor game inside of BC Place, which is an indoor stadium. And the only outdoor games we've had in Canada were the Centennial Classic at BMO Field, the Heritage Classic games at in Winnipeg at Investors Group Field, Commonwealth Stadium, and of course McMahon Stadium, both in Edmonton and Calgary respectively. But like you don't see anything else. I mean, like Toronto and Buffalo had a Heritage Classic at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, which was really cool. But like outside of that, you don't see much else. Has Ottawa had a game at home? I don't know if they did. Montreal hasn't had a game at home.
Ottawa had one.
Yeah, at Tim Hortons Field
or TD Place.
Or TD Place. Sorry, TD Place. I'm thinking of Hamilton. Sorry, guys. Montreal hasn't had a game at home yet. Like, what's going on there? You know what I mean? So again, like Toronto, like the league as a whole really needs to refocus some energy on, like, say, either creating new matchups or just say scrapping the whole program altogether, because it's like if you want to see the war between, like, say, Michigan and Ohio State in an outdoor hockey game, I would love to see that. Obviously it's a different league and it's between NCAA schools, but like I'd love to see Michigan and Ohio State tear it up at the Big House. Of course, with the 2025 Stadium Series game between Columbus and Detroit at Ohio Stadium, I mean that livens up the rivalry between both states. But outside of that, there's really no imagination held at least in this situation. I don't even know who has the Winter Classic next year. And it's just
Chicago.
Oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. Chicago has it. Sorry, this is how hard I've been paying attention. Mind you, it's barely hard for me to. It's barely easy for me to remember what happened yesterday, let alone like fucking 3 hours ago. So old age is getting to me, man.
Well, here's why.
If you could.
All right, go ahead. Sorry, Avery, go ahead.
Well, the reason why they go back to certain matchups, much as people don't like it, is that it's a moneymaker, because the Chicago television market and Chicago in general brings in a lot of capital to this league, and of course, well, when we know about what happened a few years ago, Chicago shouldn't be rewarded. We can all agree Chicago should not be rewarded.
I fucking agree.
We know that. Everybody knows that. Chicago should not be rewarded. But the league sees dollar signs. The league sees money in terms of the organization. That's the reason why they get rewarded with these kinds of events. But also, too, these aren't going away because they're catered to the local market. And actually going to an outdoor game is actually quite fun. Like going to the Calgary-Edmonton game in Commonwealth. The week around it, I'll give the NHL credit. They do a really good job at catering to the fans and making that week an event, like they did at MetLife in New Jersey for Ranger fans, Islander fans, Devil fans, and Flyer fans. And also, I did watch the games. I did love the Rangers comeback against the Islanders. Artemi Panarin scored the overtime winner in that 6-5 comeback win. That's one thing that NHL does do a really good job of, is making the home market an event. They did a really good job as well too in Seattle for the Kraken's first outdoor game at T-Mobile Park. So that's the reason why this is going to be a thing forever and ever, because teams want to host an outdoor game. Teams want to be a part of that. Like people like, I mean, I know we have yet to have an all Florida matchup. People want to see Tampa, Florida in Florida, which I think is possible. I know the Golden Knights, they still want an outdoor game. They want an outdoor game on Arizona. They want an outdoor game. So like that's the thing. Teams are still vying or bidding towards the league. Teams are still in discussion with the league saying, hey, we want to host an outdoor game because they see what a 3 to 4 day event does for that market in terms of people who come into their city, do their things. So yeah, so in terms, I mean, the TV product at times it's not the best, and the marketing around it as a TV product for sure has to improve, because the marketing to watch these games isn't the best. And I personally feel the outdoor game should be a standalone thing on any NHL calendar. Like there should be no other NHL game going up against an outdoor game or on the same day as an outdoor game. Those should be its own standalone things that have the full attention of the hockey world. Because in years past, the outdoor game has been going up against other NHL games, which to me is silly. Like, why are you pulling eyeballs away from your gym event? I don't get that. That should be the thing that the whole hockey world, at least this part of the world, is watching. An outdoor game shouldn't be going up against a Dallas Nashville or Dallas Columbus game. That's silly. That to me is silly. It should be given a big enough window every single time it happens, to which it's the one game. You want to have games later than that? Sure, but not against your outdoor game, in my mind.
Imagine, if you will, whoever picks these teams to do these outdoor games. Imagine if you centered it around the sponsor for whoever is designated to be the home. So you mentioned Ottawa. Ottawa, they're sponsored by, what was it, Bet99 or something. So like, imagine
Yes.
if you could do something NHL centric in a casino.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe make Shane Pinto the headmaster.
Oh,
Since
jeez.
God
Wow.
have mercy.
All right,
Wow.
man. All right, man. That's
the lead.
savage.
Yo, that's my level out of pocket, dog.
Man said make Shane Pinto the face of a gambling night, an outdoor game. That's
Yo.
crazy. That's outrageous.
Yo, that's bullets right there.
The Leafs, they do milk and pizza. So
Dairy farmers of Ontario.
yeah, you could work something out with them. Maybe
You could
build an outdoor rink on a farm. Have like a few. I know it's probably not good for feeding wise to the league, but like have a few thousand people come out, have it in a small community. Give back to the community a little bit.
I mean,
like even have Jersey centric things tied into the sponsor. I mean,
yeah.
would you like to see the Toronto Maple Cows? Fuck yeah, I'd like to see that shit. Why not? It'd be crazy.
No, that'd actually be proper. I mean, like what you can turn BMO Field into the Milk Bowl,
right? Like you can have them like Philly and New Jersey. They came dressed as Rocky and they came dressed as the Sopranos. You can have like the Leafs show up as like a pizza man or something. With a bottle with like a crate of milk.
Exactly. Like, didn't they show up at the Heritage Classic as like electrical engineers? I forgot what.
Yeah, the Oilers came as a bunch of rigged pigs. And
Yeah.
and the Flames came as Cowboys.
And then like Seattle came as fishermen.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what Vegas did. What did Vegas do for their game? But
offhand, I don't recall, but the theme walk-ins are fun for the outdoor games.
They are a lot of fun, and it's like, you know what, like instead of like the traditional suit and tie, it's like, the team comes up with like, say, a particular, but like these team themed outfits are really cool, and it's like, eventually, like, I would like to see the Golden Knights probably get on like military fatigues one day, right? Or at least like have like this would be like shameless. This would be like a shameless plug for the United States military, but like have the Golden Knights come in dressed as like the Army Black Knights, the Army Black Knights organization, and just come into the game like dressed like the Army Black Knights team, right? Which would be pretty cool. Seeing Columbus, something cool for them. Like I know Michigan is good for good for automotive work, so they could come as like car mechanics for their Stadium Series game. Have something fun at least. It's just it would be really nice to have a little more personality in this league, and it sucks because it's like you see so many of these things and people are just complaining about it on Instagram, saying like, oh, why are these teams doing this? Can't they just dress up like regular people? It's like, okay, they are dressing up as regular people. They're just trying to have fun. Like, what would you like? Would you like for them to be miserable like you, where you just sit in front of your TV worrying about how you're going to pay your bills and getting rejected by some girl on Instagram because apparently like you have no life? Like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, anyways, I was just trying to make fun of a situation and none of y'all were laughing. That just like I come back and like I try to be out of pocket and like now y'all are just putting me back in the pocket, eh? Both y'all. Fuck the both of you.
This man is out here. He's not trying to be out of the pocket more than Michael Vick in 2002.
Listen, you and your damn planters peanut looking forehead ass needs to calm the fuck down right now before I come over there and slap you one time.
Planters peanut forehead. What kind of reference is that for my forehead?
Somebody had to be out of pocket while you were gone. I kind of unofficially took that mantle.
Oh my god!
You're gonna have to find me to get it back. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to fight you. You can have it back.
Right? Like, anyways, folks, this episode is sponsored by FanDuel. Whatever you do, however money you use in the system, whether it be your rent money, your mortgage, or your car payment, do it responsibly. Anyways, no questions. There you go. I'm back, bitches.
You're putting your rent money on FanDuel. Call the hotline tomorrow. No, call the hotline right now.
Trust me. If anybody's out there putting their car payment on FanDuel, let alone a mortgage payment, you really need help. Seriously, there are hotlines.
It's like the people who buy those Coachella tickets and the next day they're begging for rent money. It's like you knew that tomorrow was the first. You know what you did.
Exactly. Don't be a habitual line stepper with your bank account.
All
right, folks. With all these jokes going around, I think it's a sign that we're pretty much done for the evening. So thanks very much, Troy and Avery, for coming through. Our friends over at Zoom for letting us do this, and also thank you, the listener, for letting us grace the space in between your head top. Just a little editing note, real quick, to correct the fact that New Jersey was not down 1-0 in the Stadium Series game, as they were up 2-0 in the first period of the Stadium Series game back on Saturday. Anyways, once again, like I said, thank you for letting us grace the space between your head top. Find us on the socials at, yes, of course, as Avery's trying to help me correct things here. Like I said, find us on the socials at Toronto Third, both on Instagram and on Twitter. Get us wherever you get your podcasts from. Anyways, until next time, deuces.
Bye.